So today we have Josh from Heads Up Guys. Thank you, Josh, for being here with me today.
Happy to be here.
So I thought we can start off by having you tell us a little bit about what Heads Up Guys is and how it really came to be.
Sure. So Heads Up Guys is a project of the University of British Columbia. We launched our website in June 2015. And basically we're a men's mental health website. So uh, like within Canada, men account for 3/4 of all suicides, with depression being a leading risk factor. And a lot of the problem has to do with like the stigma around suicide and reaching out for help, especially among men. So our website tries to do a lot of work to normalize the experience of depression, and then also like provide practical tips and actionable items that guys can do to address their health, and then also connect people towards resources. Um, yeah, and we're based in BC or in Vancouver, BC, but we're actually now an international resource. So we get we get our traffic split pretty evenly between the US, Canada, and the UK, which is kind of goes to show you that like guys everywhere are dealing with kind of the same issues, and you see the same stories. Whether or not we have an ongoing recovery story blog that has about like 80 different guys' stories now in it, and you see the same things like repeatedly, which is just like basically guys not wanting to look weak or not wanting to reach out until they kind of hit like rock bottom. Uh, yeah, and it's the same whether they're in London or in Vancouver or in New York, wherever they are. We're all facing sort of similar challenges. So that's what we try to address with the website.
So cool. And I think it addresses such an important issue of mental health in itself, and then especially amongst men. So that's really cool. I was just thinking, I know you said there are a lot of like a variety of resources that you guys offer. Are you able to give us a little more insight in terms of what exact resources we can find and how we access what you guys offer?
Sure. So Heads Up Guys is mostly like an information and awareness resource. So we do provide like a self-check on the site, which is like a depression screening tool. And that's been filled out more than like 300,000 times since we launched. And based on like the person's score, it'll give you different prompts for like how to seek help. Like if you have like a higher score and you're in more of a crisis situation, point you more towards crisis resources, whereas if you have like a lower score, it gives you more like lifestyle tips and things you can do to improve like your sleep or your physical activity or your relationships. So then that's kind of that's a main feature of the website. And even just having a guy do it kind of by asking you all the questions about the symptoms, it like is implicitly kind of teaching you about what the symptoms are, and also because it asks about things like how tired you are, or how like if you're having trouble concentrating, or if you're like things like beyond just feeling sad, and it kind of like shows guys that there's more to just more to depression than just sadness. Like it can affect you on like a very physical level as well. And then one thing we noticed with the website is that like it was doing a really good job helping convince guys to reach out, but we're getting more in emails about like, okay, what do I do next? And then so we wanted to address and kind of get closer towards not providing a service, because that's a bit beyond like our feasibility, but getting closer to connecting men with support services. So we recently, this past May, we launched a therapist directory. So that's a new feature on the site.
Oh, that's cool.
And it just by location in Canada, the US, and the UK. So it took a while to get all. We have like 400 therapists signed up now. But basically it lists therapists that specialize in or have more experience in treating men. And that way I can go to the site, find somebody near them or at least close by to do remote therapy. And it helps simplify the process a lot, because even like there are other big sites that have lots of therapists listed, but if you go to like any city right now, like if you go to Vancouver, there'd be like 50 people listed, and it's like, well, where do you start? And it can be like very overwhelming, confusing process, especially when you're not able to think as clearly. So absolutely. Just having it more pared down to exactly like people who therapists that are like actively engaged in trying to help men.
Cool. I absolutely agree. Whenever you reduce the number of steps you have to take,
Yeah.
it makes it more likely to happen. Just in terms of curiosity, just for people listening, I know often things we go online and we do a bunch of quizzes and whatnot. Like, what makes this the test that they're going to do on this website different? Like, is it evidence based? Like, where is it created from? Just to give people a little more insight in terms of like this isn't just a random test that they're going to do.
No,
And your sure.
it's based on the PHQ-9, which is Patient Health Questionnaire. So it's like the standard depression screening tool that you would do, uh, like in your doctor's office if you presented with depression symptoms. Um, and even like for myself, I share my own personal story on the site, talking about my experience with depression. And then like I know the first time I went to my doctor to tell her like what was going on, and I was feeling like she gave me a sheet that had like that questionnaire on it, and that was a big, well, like one of like many small turning points for me, was just like realizing how frequently I was thinking negative thoughts and how much like I was being affected by the symptoms of depression. So
Yeah.
ideally, like, yeah, guys would have a similar sort of experience.
Okay.
They're filling out the self check, and then also because it's like online and anonymous, you can just do it like from home, so it's a lot low barrier than like having to go make an appointment with the doctor to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
Cool. And I was just thinking, so there's this resource for men who want to visit your website, but I saw other resources in terms of like let's say friends and family or
yeah,
even volunteers or anything. How else can others use your website to get involved or get informed?
sure. So yeah, a big section of our website is actually for friends and family, because they're often partners are the ones that end up encouraging a guy to seek support, or supporting him along the way. So yeah, we have a big section on, yeah, like just different tips you can have to like how to start a conversation with a guy, how to support him in the long term and the short term. Uh, Also, we have a section on like managing suicide risk. So kind of like some of the warning signs you can look out for
Mhm.
in terms of like how a guy's talking, or if he's mentioning things, or if he's um, like bringing up the topic of like death and
Yeah.
things like that, as well as just, yeah, like other more practical things. Like sometimes if you have a friend who's suicidal, then you might not think of it, but uh, like removing any sort of potentially, yeah,
Yeah.
potential weapons or anything from the house or from the vicinity. Yeah, so we try to offer throughout like the supporter section and the rest of the site just very like concrete practical steps, and even like we provide like conversation prompts, so if you don't know like what to say to a guy or how to broach the topic, because for a lot of guys it can be like, oh, are you really stressed out these days, and maybe that's like the most you go, whereas other guys maybe you can ask like, are you feeling depressed,
Yeah.
or up to the point where like, are you thinking of ending your life. So we try to guide people to sort of show like what's the best way to start a conversation with the guy that you know. uh, yeah.
Cool. That's super useful. Um, really cool. And I guess the last thing, in terms of all these resources that you guys offer, like what can we do to continue supporting organizations such as yours? Like, is would, is there a way that we can continue contributing to this or start contributing to this? Whether it's raising awareness about your organization, donations, volunteering.
Yeah. Well, I think just like this, having conversations about it, trying to normalize the experience for men and show guys that it's like okay to reach out and seek support,
Absolutely.
that goes a long way. Um, if you're able to, yeah, share a resource on your social media, um, or even just know about it and to let guys know, because a lot of the time too, um, you might notice like a guy is not doing well and you don't really know how to start the conversation, but you can
Yeah.
even say like, well, there's actually this website called Heads Up Guys that you might want to check out, or you could bring it up on the phone for him. um, so even that way we're kind of like a conversation starter as well. uh, and then yeah, other than that, we don't have that many volunteer roles, just because we're mostly online, so we don't do a lot of like in-person events and things like that, although people are interested. Like we have one person who helps out with like our newsletter, and we have another person who helps out with some of like our marketing language and things like
Mhm.
that. So if someone has like some specific skills or any ideas for how they want to help out, they can feel free to reach out to us. And also same with fundraising as well. So if someone's interested in raising some funds for us, uh, we have people do like a whole bunch of different things. Like some people do like big walks or big runs or workout challenges, or another guy is like Heads Up Guys decals that he puts on his car as he like races and
Cool.
stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of ideas, and we're always excited to see like what ideas people have and try to reach out to different communities that might not have heard of our resource yet, but could still be helped by it.
Awesome. Well, I think that's really it. I just want to say thank you guys for what you're doing. I think this is absolutely crucial and really important, and it's making a huge difference in our community.
Thank you very much.
Mm. So for those of you watching online and seeing the video, you can see that we're going to now go through the website to see a few of the amazing resources that they provide for us. So first, we're going to start by looking at who Heads Up is and their mission and what they're trying to achieve with the services that they offer. So Heads Up is really an online and anonymous resource specifically designed for men and their families to really prevent the continued erosion of men's mental health and deaths by suicide. And to really put into perspective why this is such an important topic to talk about is reflected by the stats you can see here. Men die by suicide at a much higher rate than women do, 3 times the rate in Canada, the US, and the UK. Suicide is a leading cause of death for men under 50 years old. Men are much less likely than women to get help for their mental health. Over 75% of men who complete our self-check, a depression screening tool that they offer on their website, meet the criteria for probable depression. So Heads Up really uses evidence-based research and involves both clinicians and patient perspectives to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the content that they provide. They are really working to create a world where men make mental health a priority, and suicide is no longer a top 5 cause of death for men of any age. They really want to work towards supporting men in the recovery from depression, reducing their risk of suicide, and to inspire them to live healthier lives. They want to work to improve mental health literacy among men, reduce the stigma among men and among the community for mental health amongst men. They want to arm men and their families, friends, and communities with strategies for effective self-management and support their uptake of mental health services. So as you can quickly scroll through their team, you'll see there's a wide range of fantastic people that are on the team working together to provide this free resource. Next, we'll go specifically into the section that talks about depression in men. They do a fantastic job in providing various different characteristics in terms of symptoms to risk factors and even a self-check that you can take. Men get depressed. It is not a sign of weakness, it is a fact. Guys get depressed. Depression affects millions of men every year and is the leading cause of disability worldwide. And as it's eloquently put here, depression is a thief. It's an illness that can rob you of your will to live. It can also steal the pleasure from things that used to give you joy, your energy and your strength, your connection to friends and family, and your ability to handle stress. There are many misconceptions and myths related to depression, especially amongst men. First one, depression is a sign of personal weakness. The reality is that depression is a real illness. Myth. Real men are in control of their emotions and don't let things get to them. Real strength is facing whatever challenges arise. Myth. Feeling sad or down is not manly. Sadness is an emotion all humans feel, including men. Myth. Anyone with enough willpower ought to be able to snap out of it. The reality is, depression isn't overcome by willpower alone. You have to learn and acquire new skills and tools to beat it. Myth. Men should not ask for help. They should be able to cope on their own. Reality. Consulting others for direction and guidance really means taking control and is the smartest thing you can do. So there are a lot of different things that they target in terms of depression, and they actually provide a lot of articles that are very important regarding depression amongst men. Next, we'll move on to symptoms. So depression is a real medical condition that can affect your body, your thoughts, your emotions, and behavior. It's actually different from normal sadness in that it consumes your day-to-day life and interferes with your ability to do work, your ability to sleep, study, eat, or have any fun. The feelings you have when depressed, such as helplessness, hopelessness, and worthlessness, can be so intense, and unrelenting. The symptoms of depression in men described in this section can be part of life's normal ebbs and flows and don't always signal depression. But the more symptoms you have, and the stronger they are, and the longer they've lasted, the more likely it is that you're dealing with depression. And just to give you guys a little bit of better understanding of how depression can present itself, I'm going to go over this fantastic set of symptoms and explanations that Heads Up Guys have provided on their website. But I highly encourage you guys to take the time to really browse through the various resources that they have provided. So the first one, depressed mood or irritability. So you feel down or irritated most of the day, nearly every day. You have decreased interest or pleasure. So you lose interest in doing things that you used to enjoy, such as sports, hobbies, movies, or hanging out with your friends. You've noticed a significant weight change or change in appetite. Your weight and appetite are a lot less or a lot more than usual. The fourth symptom is a change in sleep. You find yourself sleeping too much or too little. The fifth symptom that they point to is a change in activity. So you feel as if everything, such as speech, thinking, and moving, is slowed. The opposite can also occur, where you feel very agitated and almost jumpy, such as finding it tough to sit still, pacing, and playing with your hands. The next symptom is fatigue or loss of energy. So you feel low on energy even when you haven't exerted yourself, and the fatigue isn't alleviated by rest or sleep. You have a sense of worthlessness or guilt. You have negative or unrealistic feelings of guilt or about being worthless. Next is concentration. You have trouble thinking or concentrating or making decisions. And lastly, suicidality. You have thoughts of death or suicide or have a suicide plan. There are various other symptoms that can present in depression when they present in men. For instance, you can have physical pain. So sometimes depression in men can show up as a backache, frequent headaches, sleep problems, sexual dysfunction, or digestive problems that don't seem to respond to normal treatment. You can have anger. So this can include irritability, being overly sensitive to criticism, losing your sense of humor, experiencing frequent road rage, having a short temper, being controlling, or being verbally or physically abusive towards others. And reckless behavior. You might find yourself engaging in escaping or risky behavior. This can mean pursuing dangerous sports, driving recklessly, or engaging in unsafe sex. You might drink too much, abuse drugs, or gamble compulsively. But it is really important to remember that depression is different for each person. And really, really important to remember, depression is treatable. So as you can see here, they point to the next step being taking the self-check. I'm not going to go over it, but I really highly encourage you to take a second to visit the website so you can see what type of questions that they ask and suggestions and recommendations that they provide. So the next important thing I want to talk about is suicide. Untreated depression can carry a high risk for suicide. Nearly 800,000 people die by suicide every year. Nearly twice the amount of people who die by homicide. Many men, including those who have tried to end their lives, have recovered from depression and suicidal thoughts. According to the World Health Organization, men account for 75% of all suicides. More than 90% of those people who die by suicide struggle with their mental health. Researchers estimate that up to 60% of people who die by suicide have major depression. If you are feeling suicidal, it's crucial to reach out and seek support. Likewise, having conversations with someone you're worried about is extremely important to letting them know you care. No one should have to fight depression on their own. How we talk about suicide matters, and is something everyone can do to help. So as you can see in this section, they provide amazing resources, advice, tips, tricks from every perspective. They tell you, for instance, in this article, how to talk about suicide and avoiding phrases like commit. You have thrivers who share their stories with depression and how they survive depression and suicide. For those who have suicidal thoughts, it provides articles in terms of what you can do. And for those who want to support a man who's having suicidal thoughts, it provides advice in terms of how to manage suicide risk and how to help and what warning signs you should look out for. Lastly, the section I really want to go over is for friends and family. So many people have requested providing information on what we can do to be a support for those who are struggling. And they provide a very thorough section in terms of what you can do to provide support. So not only is this a resource for those who find themselves or may suspect themselves to be struggling from depression and or suicidal ideations, but it also provides information and context for those who have family, friends, or someone in the community that they suspect may be in need of help. And I want to end this podcast by saying Heads Up Guys has done an amazing job in advancing the work and breaking the stigma of mental health amongst men, particularly related to depression and suicide. As you can see here, Heads Up is funded exclusively through public donations. So if you have the capabilities of donating, please consider helping fight depression and suicide. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast.